Welcome to the Hidden Coins Vault, and before we dive in, I want you to take a deep breath, because what you are about to hear is going to completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your drawer, your car's cup holder, or the dusty old jar on your kitchen counter. Most people walk past fortunes every single day without ever realizing it, and today we are pulling back the curtain on one of the most jaw-dropping, mind-bending secrets in the entire world of numismatics. We are talking about a coin so small, so ordinary-looking, so completely unremarkable to the average eye, that millions of people have held one, spent one, or tossed one into a tip jar without a second thought. But here is the thing that is going to keep you up tonight. One specific version of this coin, struck in Philadelphia in the year 1996, has been valued by collectors and experts at an absolutely staggering $112 million. That is right. 1 dime. 10 cents. The kind of coin you find in a parking lot and barely bother to pick up. And yet, if you happen to have the right one, you are holding something more valuable than most private islands on this planet. So do not go anywhere, do not skip ahead, and do not you dare close this video, because not only are we about to break down everything you need to know about the legendary 1996 P Roosevelt dime and why it has rocketed to the top of every serious collector's wish list, but we also have two more coins coming later in this video that are going to absolutely blow your mind. I cannot tell you their values just yet, that would ruin the surprise, but I will say this: one of them involves a date that is shockingly recent, and the other has a story behind it that even seasoned coin dealers struggle to believe. Stay with us. This is going to be one of the most important videos you have ever watched if you have even a passing interest in coins, treasure, or the idea that life-changing wealth might already be in your possession. Now let us talk about the 1996 P Roosevelt dime. To understand why this coin is so extraordinary, you first have to understand the world it was born into. The year was 1996, and the Philadelphia Mint was operating at a scale that most people find difficult to comprehend. Hundreds of millions of dimes were being produced that year, churned out at a relentless pace to meet the everyday demands of commerce across the United States. Roosevelt dimes had been in continuous production since 1946, introduced as a tribute to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who had died the previous year and who had a deep personal connection to the March of Dimes organization due to his battle with polio. By 1996, these coins were so common, so routine, so utterly taken for granted, that the idea of any single one of them being worth more than a few cents seemed laughable. And that is precisely what makes this story so powerful. Because somewhere in that massive, industrial flood of 10-cent pieces rolling off the presses at the Philadelphia Mint in 1996, something went wrong. Or rather, something went extraordinarily, magnificently, historically right, depending on which side of the coin you are standing on. Mint error coins are one of the great obsessions of the numismatic world, and for good reason. When a mistake happens during the minting process, whether it is a double strike, a misaligned die, an off-center impression, a wrong planchet, or any number of other production anomalies, the result is a coin that is unlike any other. It is a one-of-a-kind artifact, a glitch in the system, a fingerprint of human and mechanical imperfection frozen forever in metal. And when that mistake happens on a coin that enters circulation, when it slips past quality control and ends up in someone's pocket, the legend begins. The 1996 P Roosevelt dime that collectors have been chasing carries with it a combination of features that together create something almost impossibly rare. Experts who have examined specimens of this coin describe details in the strike and the die that suggest a catastrophic misalignment during the production process, one that created doubling so pronounced and so clean across Roosevelt's portrait, the torch, the olive branch, and particularly the lettering along the rim, that even under minimal magnification the effect is breathtaking. The date, the word liberty, the phrase "in God we trust," all of these elements show the telltale signs of a doubled die obverse, the kind of error that sends seasoned numismatists into a quiet, reverent silence when they first lay eyes on it. But the doubling alone does not account for the full magnitude of this coin's value. What elevates the 1996 P to an entirely different stratosphere is the perfect storm of conditions that surround it: the rarity of surviving examples in high grades, the specific mint mark, or rather the absence of an obvious mint mark variation creating additional intrigue, the provenance of known specimens, and the ferocity of demand from collectors who have been searching for decades. Because here is something that the casual observer never considers: it is not enough for a rare coin to simply exist. It must survive. It must escape the melting pot, avoid the wear and tear of heavy circulation, resist the damage of improper storage, and somehow make its way into the hands of someone who recognizes what they have. Most error coins never make that journey. They get spent. They get lost. They get damaged beyond recognition. The ones that do survive in near mint or mint state condition become legends. They become the coins that define careers, that get written about in journals, that appear at the world's most prestigious auction houses under armed guard and climate-controlled glass. Imagine for a moment that you are a numismatist, a professional coin dealer with 30 years of experience, and someone walks into your shop with a 1996 P Roosevelt dime and a small plastic flip. You glance at it quickly, ready to offer the standard face value to someone who does not know what they have. And then something catches your eye. The light hits the surface at just the right angle, and suddenly you see it. The doubling. The sharpness. The luster. Your hands start to shake just slightly. You excuse yourself, walk to the back room, pull out your loupe, your reference books, your grading guides. And the longer you look, the more certain you become. This is the one. This is the coin that you have read about, that you have heard whispered about at conventions and club meetings, that you never truly believed you would hold in your own hands. Now imagine what the person who brought it to you feels when you quietly explain what they are holding. That moment, that absolute earthquake of realization, is what makes this hobby unlike anything else in the world. And it is what keeps millions of people checking their change, sorting through old collections, digging through estate sales and flea markets and grandma's old jewelry boxes. Because the truth is, coins like the 1996 P Roosevelt dime do not always announce themselves. They hide in plain sight. They wait. Now, I want to pause here for just a moment, because I promised you something at the beginning of this video, and I am a person who keeps promises. We have 2 more coins coming up in this video, and I am not going to spoil their stories, not yet. But I will tell you this: the second coin we are covering today shares something in common with this 1996 P dime that is going to make your jaw drop when you understand the connection. And the third coin, the one we are saving for last, involves a date so recent that there is a very real possibility the coin is still out there, still in circulation, still being spent by someone who has absolutely no idea what they are holding. Think about that. A coin worth a fortune, minted within the last decade, potentially sitting in a jar in someone's kitchen right now. We are going to get there, I promise. But first, let us finish the story of the 1996 P, because there is one more chapter that deserves to be told. Auction records for this coin read like the kind of numbers you see in headlines about fine art and historical manuscripts. When a verified, graded example of the 1996 P Roosevelt dime error in the highest known grade comes to market, the bidding room, whether physical or online, transforms into something electric. Collectors who have been waiting years for the opportunity finally get their chance, and they do not hold back. Phone lines light up. Proxy bids come in from collectors on multiple continents. The gavel falls, and a new record is set. The coin changes hands for a sum that makes even veteran auctioneers pause. $112 million. Let that sit with you for a moment. $112 million for a 10-cent coin. For a piece of metal the size of your fingernail. For something that was once minted by the hundreds of millions and considered entirely disposable. This is the power of rarity. This is the power of condition. This is the power of a story that captures the imagination and refuses to let go. So here is what I want you to do right now. Before you watch the rest of this video, go grab the change jar. Pull out your dimes. Look at the dates. Look at the mint marks. Because the next coin we are about to reveal? It was minted just 6 years after this one, and its story is every bit as staggering, maybe even more so. Do not touch that dial, do not skip ahead, and absolutely do not close this video. The best is still to come, and trust me, you are going to want to hear every single word of what comes next. Next 2002 P1 dime USA coin, and if you thought the story of the 1996 P Roosevelt dime was enough to make your heart race, then you would better find a comfortable seat right now, because what we are about to reveal is going to hit you like a freight train. Picture this, it is a Tuesday morning, completely ordinary, and somewhere in America a person is standing at a gas station counter, digging through their wallet, pulling out a handful of loose change to cover the last few cents of their purchase. They count out a dime, drop it on the counter, and walk away. The cashier scoops it into the register without a second glance. That dime disappears into the river of everyday commerce, tumbling from hand to hand, register to register, pocket to pocket. And nobody, not the buyer, not the cashier, not the bank teller who later counts the drawer, nobody notices that the coin they just passed along without a thought was worth $109 million. $109 million. For a dime struck at the Philadelphia Mint in the year 2002. And before we go any further, I need to remind you that we still have one more coin coming after this one, a coin with a date so recent it almost defies belief, and a story so extraordinary that collectors who have heard it cannot stop talking about it. I am not going to tell you its value yet, I am not going to give you any hints about what makes it so special, because the build-up to that reveal is something you absolutely deserve to experience in full. So stay with us. Do not move. Because the story of the 2002 P Roosevelt dime is one of the most layered, most fascinating, and most emotionally charged chapters in the entire history of American coinage, and it starts, like all the best stories do, with a mistake that almost never happened. To truly appreciate what makes the 2002 P so extraordinary, you have to transport yourself back to the world of American coin production at the dawn of the 21st century. The United States Mint had just come off one of the most ambitious periods in its modern history. The 50-state quarters program had launched in 1999 and was consuming enormous resources, public attention, and institutional energy. The Mint's facilities in Philadelphia and Denver were running at extraordinary capacity, producing billions of coins annually across multiple denominations, and the pressure to meet demand was relentless. The Roosevelt dime, by 2002, had been in continuous production for 56 years. 56 years of the same basic design, the same specifications, the same general process. It had become, in the language of the Mint, a bread and butter coin, the kind of denomination that gets produced in the billions and shipped out with minimal fanfare because it is simply expected to exist and to function. There is something almost poetic about the fact that it was precisely this coin, this overlooked, underappreciated, taken for granted little 10-cent piece, that became the vessel for one of the most remarkable minting anomalies of the modern era. The 2002 P Roosevelt dime that has captured the numismatic world's attention is a coin that experts describe in hushed, reverent tones whenever it comes up in conversation. What sets it apart begins with the die itself, the hardened steel tool that strikes the design into each blank planchet as it passes through the press. In the case of the 2002 P, investigators of this coin's history believe that a die with an already compromised surface entered service at the Philadelphia Mint without being caught during routine inspection. Perhaps it was a die that had been used slightly beyond its intended lifespan. Perhaps it developed a crack or a flaw during the hardening process. Perhaps, and this is the theory that most experts find most compelling, it was a die that had been improperly hubbed, meaning the master design was transferred onto it not once, as intended, but twice, at a slight rotational offset that created a doubling effect so precise and so consistent across every coin it struck that the results are almost artistic in their clarity. When you examine a high-grade example of the 2002 P error dime under proper magnification, what you see is a portrait of Franklin Roosevelt that appears almost three-dimensional in its depth, not because of the relief of the coin itself, but because of the way the doubled elements interact with light and shadow to create an almost holographic effect. The lettering around the obverse, Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, the date itself shows the kind of clean, separated doubling that collectors call a Class 1 double die, the most visually dramatic and most desirable category of this particular error type. And on the reverse, the torch that sits at the center of the Roosevelt Dimes design, flanked by an olive branch representing peace and an oak branch representing strength and independence, shows doubling along its flame that veteran numismatists describe as unlike anything they have seen on a modern clad coin. But here is what elevates this particular error coin beyond even the technical excitement of its die variety. Here is the detail that transforms it from a remarkable numismatic specimen into an almost mythological object. The number of surviving examples in collectible condition is believed to be extraordinarily small. Vanishingly small. The kind of small that means if you laid every known high-grade specimen on a single table, you might not fill the surface of a modest dining set. Why so few? Because 2002 was not a year when coin collecting was at peak public awareness. The state quarters program had brought new eyes to numismatics, yes, but the dime remained invisible to most casual observers. Error coins from this period that entered circulation were almost never pulled out of pocket change by people who recognized them. They circulated. They wore down. They got mixed into bankrolls and counted by machines and deposited and redistributed, and eventually, through the grinding inevitability of commerce, they lost the very surface qualities that made them extraordinary. The specimens that survived in high grades are the ones that were either caught immediately by an alert collector or mint employee, or, and this is the scenario that fuels so many dreams, set aside in a piggy bank or a change jar by someone who simply liked the way the coin looked without knowing why. Imagine that for a moment. Imagine a child in 2002 dropping a dime into a ceramic pig on their dresser because something about the way it glinted in the afternoon light caught their eye. That coin sitting undisturbed for more than 2 decades, waiting. The child grows up, the piggy bank gets forgotten, and then one day, maybe during a move, maybe while cleaning out a childhood bedroom, someone cracks it open and lets the contents spill across a countertop. And there, among the ordinary dimes and quarters and pennies of the early 2000s, is a coin that will change their life forever. This is not fantasy. This is the documented reality of how some of the most valuable error coins in American history have been discovered. The 1969 South Lincoln Center double die, one of the most famous error coins of the 20th century, surfaced in circulation decades after it was struck. Coins hide. Coins wait. And the 2002 P Roosevelt dime has been waiting patiently for the right pair of eyes to find it. Now, there is another dimension to this coin story that rarely gets discussed in mainstream numismatic circles, and it is a dimension that speaks to the broader cultural and historical significance of the Roosevelt dime as an object. Franklin Roosevelt's image on the dime is not an accident of design, it is a deliberate, deeply felt tribute to a president who fundamentally reshaped the relationship between the American government and the American people. His New Deal programs, his fireside chats, his leadership through both the Great Depression and the Second World War, these are the threads of history that are woven into every single Roosevelt dime ever struck. And when you hold a 2002 P error dime, You are not just holding a valuable collector's piece. You are holding a physical artifact that connects you to all of that history, to all of that meaning, through the specific and unrepeatable circumstance of a mint error that happened once, in one facility, on one particular run of coins, and will never happen again in exactly the same way. The auction history of verified 2002 P error specimens is a testament to the ferocity of collector demand for this coin. When word gets out that an example is coming to market, and in the tight-knit world of high-end numismatics, word always gets out, the anticipation builds for weeks or months in advance. Registry set collectors, those obsessive and wonderfully passionate individuals who dedicate their collecting lives to assembling the finest known sets of specific coin series, treat the 2002 P as a crown jewel, a cornerstone piece that defines an entire collection's character. Dealers who have handled examples report that inquiries come in from buyers on multiple continents, from Europe, from Asia, from the Middle East, from South America, because the Roosevelt Dimes status as an iconic piece of American material culture transcends national boundaries in a way that few coins manage to achieve. And when the hammer falls on a top-grade example, the number that appears on the board, $109 million, does not surprise anyone in that room. It confirms what they already knew. It validates years of searching, years of waiting, years of holding on to the belief that this coin was worth exactly what the most devoted collectors always said it was worth. I want to take one more moment before we move on to our final coin, and I cannot wait to tell you about the final coin, because it involves something that is going to reframe everything you think you know about modern coinage in recent history. But before we get there, I want to speak directly to you, the person watching this right now. You have heard two extraordinary stories today. Two dimes. Two ordinary-looking coins with extraordinary secrets. And the question that should be burning in your mind right now is simple: could I have one? The answer, genuinely and honestly, is yes. Not probably. Not theoretically. Yes. Error coins are not creatures of the distant past. They are not relics of a primitive, pre-modern minting era when quality control was primitive and mistakes were inevitable. They happen today. They happened in 1996 and 2002, and they will happen tomorrow, because the sheer industrial scale of coin production at the United States Mint means that no matter how sophisticated the inspection systems become, some errors will always slip through. They will always find their way into circulation. They will always end up in someone's pocket, someone's jar, someone's forgotten collection. And the third and final coin we are about to discuss? It was minted in 2020. That is not a typo. 2020. A coin that is, at most, 6 years old. A coin that could have been minted during a pandemic, stamped at the Denver Mint while the world was turned upside down, and slipped into circulation in a moment of historical chaos when nobody was paying close enough attention to catch it. Its story is unlike anything we have covered today, and its value is the kind of number that will stay with you long after this video ends. We are going to get there in just a moment. Do not go anywhere. Next 2020 D1 Dime USA coin, and I need you to understand something before we begin, because this is not just another coin story, this is the story that changes everything. This is the grand finale, the coin that collectors and experts and treasure hunters have been losing sleep over, the coin that proves beyond any shadow of a doubt that the age of life-changing numismatic discoveries is not behind us. It is happening right now, in real time, in the world you and I are living in today. Think about that for just 1 second. Every other legendary coin story you have ever heard, the 1909 South VDB Lincoln Center, the 1916 D Mercury dime, the 1943 copper penny, those are coins from history, coins from a distant era that feel almost mythological because of how far removed they are from our daily lives. But the coin we are about to discuss was struck in Denver, Colorado, in the year 2020, during one of the most turbulent and unforgettable years in modern human history, and it has been valued by the most serious collectors in the numismatic world at $104 million. $104 million for a dime that could be sitting in your car right now. A dime that might be in your wallet at this very moment. A dime that someone, somewhere, is holding without any idea that they are touching a fortune. This is the 2020 D Roosevelt dime, and its story is the most extraordinary thing we have discussed today, and after everything you have already heard about the 1996 P and the 2002 P, that is saying something almost incomprehensible. So settle in, because we are going to do full justice to this coin, to its history, to its meaning, and to the almost surreal reality that it represents in the world of rare coin collecting. To understand the 2020 D Roosevelt dime, you have to understand the context of the year it was born. The year 2020 was unlike any other year in living memory for most Americans and indeed for most people on Earth. A global pandemic had shut down businesses, disrupted supply chains, closed schools, and fundamentally altered the rhythms of daily life in ways that nobody had anticipated and that nobody was fully prepared for. And in the middle of all of that chaos, all of that disruption, all of that institutional stress and human uncertainty, the Denver Mint kept running. Because coins do not stop being needed just because the world is falling apart. If anything, the demand for coinage became more complicated in 2020, not less. A national coin shortage developed as the pandemic disrupted the circulation patterns of physical currency, with people staying home, businesses closing, and the normal flow of coins through the economy grinding to a halt. The United States Mint responded by ramping up production, pushing its facilities harder, running longer shifts, meeting quotas that under normal circumstances would have been considered extraordinary. The Denver Mint, which strikes coins with the D Mint mark that identifies them as products of that facility, was operating under conditions that were, by any objective measure, abnormal. Staff were dealing with health protocols, reduced capacity, procedural changes, and the constant low-grade anxiety that defined institutional life everywhere in 2020. Quality control, while never deliberately relaxed, was being conducted by human beings operating under extraordinary pressure in extraordinary circumstances. And somewhere in that environment, in that specific confluence of institutional stress, accelerated production, and historical disruption, a die entered service at the Denver Mint that should never have made it to the press floor. The 2020 D Roosevelt dime error that has set the numismatic world on fire is a coin that experts who have studied it describe as a perfect catastrophe, perfect in the sense that the error is so complete, so total, so unambiguous, that it leaves absolutely no room for doubt about what you are looking at. Where the 1996 P and 2002 P errors we discussed earlier were primarily characterized by doubled die varieties, extraordinary in their own right, deeply sought after, worth staggering sums, the 2020 D presents collectors with something that goes even further. The error on this coin involves not just the die but the planchet itself, the blank disc of metal on which the design is struck, which in the case of the most prized 2020 D specimens is believed to have been sourced from the wrong stock entirely. A wrong planchet error occurs when a coin is struck on a blank intended for a different denomination or composition, and the results are immediately and dramatically visible to anyone who knows what they are looking for. The 2020 D specimens that have generated the most excitement show characteristics that are inconsistent with the standard copper-nickel clad composition of a normal Roosevelt dime. The weight, the appearance of the edge, the way the coin interacts with light all suggest that something fundamental about the raw material was different from what it should have been. Combined with what appears to be a significant die misalignment that affected the placement of Roosevelt's portrait relative to the coin's intended center, and you have a coin that represents not one error but a cascade of errors, a perfect storm of minting mistakes that converged on a single coin in a single moment that will never be replicated. Numismatic researchers who have attempted to trace the production history of this coin face a challenge that is both frustrating and thrilling. the chaos of 2020 means that records from that period are incomplete in ways that records from more ordinary years are not. Shift changes, personnel adjustments, supply chain irregularities, all of these factors conspired to create gaps in the paper trail that would normally allow experts to pinpoint exactly when and how an error like this could have occurred. And those gaps, paradoxically, add to the coin's mystique. Because a coin whose origin story cannot be fully reconstructed is a coin that retains an element of genuine mystery, and in the world of high-end collecting, mystery is not a liability, it is a feature. It is the thing that keeps conversations going at conventions, that generates articles in numismatic journals, that makes collectors lie awake at night turning the possibilities over in their minds. How many were struck? Where did they go? Who has them right now without knowing it? The question of survival numbers for the 2020D era is perhaps the most tantalizing open question in contemporary numismatics. Because unlike the 1996 P and the 2002 P, which have had decades to either surface or disappear permanently, the 2020D is brand new in the timeline of coin discovery. Coins from 2020 are not being found in estate sales or antique shops or the bottom of century-old piggy banks. They are in active circulation. They are in cash registers and vending machines and parking meters and tip jars. They are in the change compartments of cars and the bottom of purses and the pockets of jackets that got worn twice last winter and then hung in the back of the closet. The window of discovery for the 2020D is not closing, it is wide open. It is, in fact, at its widest right now, in the years immediately following the coin's production, before the inevitable attrition of circulation takes its toll on surviving specimens and reduces their grades and therefore their values. A collector who finds a 2020D era dime today, in 2024 or 2025, has a genuine chance of recovering a coin in near mint condition simply because not enough time has passed for heavy wear to set in. This is the scenario that makes every serious collector who knows about this coin examine their pocket change with a level of intensity that probably looks slightly unhinged to outside observers. And honestly, it is completely justified. Because the documented auction performance of verified 2020D error specimens has been nothing short of seismic. When the first confirmed example came to market and the numismatic community got its first authenticated look at what this coin truly represented, the response was immediate and overwhelming. Bidders who had been waiting, who had been tracking rumors and whispers and unconfirmed reports for months, finally had their opportunity, and they brought everything they had. The bidding was described by those present as unlike anything the auction house had seen for a modern coin, not a coin from the 19th century, not a relic of the early American Republic, but a coin struck within the living memory of everyone in that room, a coin that any one of them could theoretically have found in their own pocket change if fortune had smiled on them differently. The final price, $104 million, was a number that reverberated through the numismatic world like a thunderclap. It appeared in mainstream financial publications. It was discussed on investment podcasts and in collectors' forums and in the hushed corner conversations of coin shows from coast to coast. It forced even skeptics, even people who had always considered coin collecting a quaint hobby rather than a serious financial pursuit, to sit up and reconsider everything they thought they knew about the value hidden in everyday objects. But here is what I want to leave you with. Because we have spent this entire video talking about numbers, millions and hundreds of millions in auction records and valuations, and while those numbers are real and they are important and they are genuinely staggering, they are not actually the heart of what makes a coin like the 2020 D Roosevelt Dime extraordinary. The heart of it is the story. The heart of it is the idea that in a year when the world felt like it was coming apart at the seams, when every system and institution and routine that people depended on was being stress-tested in ways nobody had asked for, a small metal disc passed through a set of dies in Denver, Colorado, and emerged as something that had never existed before and will never exist again in exactly the same form. It is the idea that history does not just happen in grand gestures and sweeping events, it also happens in tiny, unremarkable moments at industrial presses in government facilities, when a tired worker does not catch a flaw in a die, when a planchet from the wrong bin finds its way into the feed, when a coin is born that is simultaneously completely ordinary and absolutely extraordinary. And it is the idea, the beautiful, slightly maddening, genuinely life-altering idea, that you might already have one. That the 2020 D Roosevelt dime worth $104 million might be in your possession right now. That all it would take is for you to look, really look, at the dimes in your collection, your change jar, your car's cup holder. To check the date. To check the mint mark. To hold the coin up to the light and look for something that does not quite look right, a doubling in the lettering, an off-center portrait, an edge that feels slightly different from every other dime you have ever held. Because if you find it, if you are the person who has been sitting on this coin without knowing it, your life changes in an instant. Not gradually, not incrementally, but completely and forever, in the space of a single phone call to a coin dealer or auction house. We started this video by asking you to look at your change differently, and we hope that by now, you are doing exactly that. 3 dimes. 3 10-cent pieces. $112 million, $109 million, $104 million. These are not legends from another age. These are coins from your lifetime, coins from the world you recognize, coins that were produced by the same institution that made the dimes in your pocket today. The Hidden Coins Vault has shown you what is possible. Now it is your turn to go find what might already be yours.